Hello, this is Keith Hall, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to be in Excel 365, and over the next few videos I'm going to be explaining um, the COUNTIFS function in Excel. And what I'll do is I'll always point back to this video because in this video I'll explain first what COUNTIFS is, the syntax and so on, and an example, a brief example of how it works. And then in each tutorial, I'm going to be going into how we can apply multiple conditions to the COUNTIFS function and include a real life example of how we could build graphs with it or charts. So let's get started here. What is COUNTIFS? Well, I'm just going to be reading stuff off the screen right here, but you could see this in the video. COUNTIFS, the purpose is to count the number of cells that meet one or more criteria across one or more ranges. Now, the COUNTIFS function is particularly useful when you need to apply apply more than one condition to count data. You could also use the COUNTIFS function just for one criteria, but it's designed where you could pass in multiple criteria. So for example, you could use it to count how many sales transactions are within a specific region that exceed a certain value, or how many employees in a department meet specific performance ratings and experience levels. Those are just examples. Now, what is the syntax? The syntax first comes with the first argument, which is your criteria range. Well, what is the criteria range? It's the range of cells that you want to apply the first condition to. So in other words, you have this range here that you select, and the next argument is criteria 1. In this particular case, what is the criteria that we want to be able to count cells for? So this can be a range of numbers, text, or dates. And again, the condition or the condition or the criteria that you want to apply to the first range, which is here. This could be a number, an expression, a cell reference, or even a text string. Okay, and you'll see what all this means in a few seconds or minutes when we go through the examples. Now, when you're selecting the range here in the first argument, if you're only using one criteria, it includes all the cells that you want to evaluate. So that's number one, that's the criteria range. Now the ranges for each criteria, meaning if you have multiple criteria, you're using the true functionality of COUNTIFS. Each range now must be the same size. In other words, it must have the same numbers of rows and columns. You'll see why next. So let's understand COUNTIFS. Let's go to the next tab here. I just have a sample data set that I allowed ChatGPT to generate for me. Now, I'm going to explain in this area specifically this, when you're selecting the ranges for multiple criteria. Now, I just got a basic COUNTIFS function using multiple criteria. You can look up here in the formula bar. What I'm doing is I'm trying to count cells that have the location of Chicago. As you can see right here, that's a criteria number 1. And also within that, the ones that equal Chicago, they must also equal female. So let's click into the formula bar. You could see that the height of each range, this is range 1, this is range 2, the height of both of them are of different sizes. So when they're of different sizes, that's why we get a value error over here. So let's fix this. Let's go back up here, click in there, let's adjust the size here. Now both of them are of the same size, one column each, and the same number of rows. Now press enter. Now you can see that it returns a result of 1. So why does it return 1? Well, basically the criteria was, let's look for all locations of Chicago. As you can see, there's only 2 here in Chicago, but we also want to meet the criteria of it must also be a gender of female. So let's go back over here. What we have here, this is a Chicago and female, so that would be count 1. This other location or this condition, Chicago and male, so it's not going to count that because the COUNTIFS function means that all these criteria is an and condition, meaning that all these conditions must be equal, and it's not an or. However, as you can see in future videos, I'll explain an or condition for you. But basically, that's generally how this works. Now let's go to a more sophisticated example. I have a data set here, which I again generated by using ChatGPT, and it's 100 records. Okay, as you can see, so I press Control up arrow to get back up to the top. So basically in this tutorial, what I'm going to be showing to you is I'm going to count the number of cells that contain a certain text. So I set up this, we're going to use a static version and a dynamic version. Okay, the static version, let's go through this first, okay? So basically, I want to be able to count the number of records in here where the department equals finance. As you can see this up in a formula bar. So in other words, I'm going to select the range. Let's go right here. I'm going to select the range. So as you can see, the range is every row in the department column is selected because I want to be able to select the entire range to apply this condition to. So I'm going to select everything in that, and then I want a count of how many of these records equal finance. So it's hard-coded as finance. So that's what I mean by static. And you must put it in, since this is text, we're going to be putting it in double quotes. So when you press enter, it comes up with the number 12. So how we can verify this is, right now this is not an official Excel table, but we could apply filters to it by going anywhere in your data set. Okay, scroll back up here, click anywhere, and as a shortcut key, you press in Windows Control-Shift-L. And as you can see, it goes up to the header of that data area and puts filters on it. So let's verify that this number here is correct. So let's go to the department column, and we want to filter by finance because this is what I hard-coded for that static COUNTIFS is. So let's unselect everything and let's select finance and click OK. Now, once I select the first one, Control-Shift down, what Excel does in the status bar in the bottom right here, I'm circling it right now, it says count 12. So you know that this record or this formula worked. It counted the number of records within this data range that I selected, and it looked for any one of them that equaled the Department of Finance. So let's clear this filter. Okay. Now that was its static version. Let's use a dynamic version. Dynamic version means that it's going to be based upon, the criteria is going to be based upon whatever I select over here. So what I did was I just created a data validation list, and basically I selected everything on the, and it came up with a unique list of all the different departments within this column. So the static or dynamic version is basically, let's go up here again. The first argument is the criteria range that we're going to select. We want to look for all departments, or count all departments that equal whatever this selection here. In this case, it's operations right now. So let's press enter. And again, the way to verify that, if this number 23 is correct, again, let's filter by operations. Okay, let's select this, Control Shift down. As you can see, bottom right in the status bar in Excel, it counted 23 rows. So we know that it is working correctly. So let's clear this filter. Okay. Let's do that. Now, what practical uses can we use for this specific condition where we want to look for certain text and count that in this case? So let's go over to the right here. And in order to do this, we're going to be building a simple bar graph or chart. And we're going to look for the employee distribution by department. In other words, we want to be able to see how many employees are in each department. And we're going to build this bar chart together. Right now, this is just an image, a screenshot of the one I created before. So in order to get this bar chart, we need to build a summary table. So in order to do that, let's get a list of unique departments over from here, okay? So we could do this. Let's use a formula called unique. And I'm going to select the range. So we want to find the unique values in this range here. And I'm pressing Control Shift down arrow to select everything in our data area. Control backspace to bring us back to the formula. And I just want a unique list. So it's a dynamic range. So what I did was, again, what the unique function does, it gets a unique list of whatever range that you select. Now let's say, well, we want to filter this, or we want to sort this, okay, in alphabetical order. So in order to do that, we could wrap the unique function with the sort function. SRT, tab into that. The sort index, well, by default, if I leave it blank, since I only have one column in my range, it's just going to sort by that first column. If I had multiple columns in this range, then I could say, okay, let's sort on column 2 of this range, or column 3. So I'm going to leave this argument blank. What's the sort order? Well, in this case, I wanted to sort it in ascending, so in alphabetical order, because this is going to be text. So select one, and the last argument is optional in the sort function. Hit enter. Okay, now this is sorted. Now let's build the employee count. We want to find the number of employees for each department. So in order to do this, let's go to COUNTIFS. And what's our criteria? Well, we want to count, again, the number records, basically, or number of employees per department. So we're going to select our criteria range. It's going to be department in this range. Control Shift down arrow. Control backspace to get us back to the formula area. And then we want to fix this range because we're going to be copying this formula. So let's press F4. And what's the criteria? Well, we want to determine the number of employees for the finance department. So we're going to select this. And we're going to leave this as relative because we want it to go down to the next one. So the next row is going to look for HR. Next row is going to look for IT and so forth. So let's close it out, press enter, and now we get 12. So let's copy this formula down. And those are our counts for departments. So now let's build this graph that I have down here. So what you want to do is select your summary table and let's go up to insert. Let's select the bar chart, cluster bar chart. Okay, now let's move this over here and let's format it. Okay, scroll over here just a bit. So what we want to do now, if you look at this closely, we have sales up on the top, finance on the bottom. But our range starts with finance up on the top and sales on the bottom. So how can we get this to be in the same order as this? Finance first, then HR, and so forth. So if we select this, let's hover over this. This is the vertical category, it says. So let's select that. Control 1 to bring up the format axis. That's just a shortcut key. And if you could look at this option right down here under access option, it says categories in reverse order. So as soon as I check this, watch what happens to the sort order of the categories. Okay. As you can see, finance is on the top, then HR, IT, and so forth. So it's now in the same order as this. So let's further customize this. Let's go to the data series. If you click on one of them, selects all of them, Control 1, brings up the format data series. Now let's change the gap width. Let me explain what the gap width is. The gap width is basically in a bar chart, it's the space between each horizontal bar. That's what the gap width is. So let's see what happens if I increase it. Let's watch what happens to the gap width. Let's go to 200%. Let's very minor. Let's go 300%. As you can see, as you increase the gap width, the bar becomes thinner or narrower, and the space between each bar becomes larger. So if we decrease it, let's use a huge number. Let's go back down to 75%. Watch what happens. As you can see, when you decrease it, the width of the bar increases the width, and the space between the bars becomes narrower or thinner. So let's go up to 110. Okay. Now let's get, as you can see over here, I have a shadow on the bar. So let's go over here and let's select shadow, and I'm going to go to a preset. And what I want to do is I want to have a shadow on the bottom and to the right. So that's what that will do. Now let's get rid of these grid lines. If you select on one, it selects on all of them. As you can see, all I'm doing is pressing the delete key. Now let's put these numbers that the employee count and use them as data labels, as you can see over here. So if you select the data series, right click, add data labels, okay? Now it puts them on the outside end. So in order to get the data labels on top of the bar, let's select the data labels, Control 1 is a shortcut key. And if you come under, you select the label options, under label options here, scroll all the way down to the label position. Right now it's on the outside end. Let's put it on the inside end. And it moves it over. Now let's it's black text on top of a blue background. So let's go up to the Home tab and select white text. Let's make it bold, okay? And now let's use a dynamic chart title. So we want this chart title to equal this heading right here. In order to do this, select the chart title, go up to the formula bar, press equal, and then select the cell where, of the text that you want to appear as the chart title. Once you press enter, you can see now it's a dynamic title, meaning that anytime that this cell value changes, so will this chart title. Okay, so hopefully this tutorial on COUNTIFS was very useful for you, and also how you can use COUNTIFS in a practical situation or real life situation where you can analyze your data and display it in a graph. I want to thank you for stopping by today. I look forward to the next video. As I stated in the beginning, the next series of videos will expand on the COUNTIFS function and how we can set multiple criteria, whether it be equal to numbers or within a specific date range, or even wildcard characters. We're going to get into that in more detail. Thanks again for stopping by. Please like and share this video. And as always, please subscribe to this channel so you can always be updated on useful Excel videos. And again, I'll be going into more detail with Power Query in the future, Power BI, even Microsoft Word. Thanks again. You have a great day, and I'll see you next time.